Good morning, everybody. This is the Sportsocology Show, and I'm your host, Bill Knutson. I've got a few things to talk about today. I'm going to talk a little about Adrian Peterson, Ray Rice, a little bit about the Major League Baseball playoffs. Well, not the playoffs, but the race to the playoffs with about 2 weeks to go. Let you know what I think, how that's going to end up. Touch on the NFL schedule for week 2. And a little bit about the 3 or 4 college games that are of interest to me. There aren't a lot of top quality games today. I don't think there are any where both teams are in the top 10. I don't think there are any top 10 matchups at all. I don't even think there's a top 20 matchup. But that's basically what I'm going to touch on today. The first thing I'm going to talk about is Adrian Peterson. Now, if you haven't heard, he was actually, there was a warrant put out for him in Texas for negligent injury to a child. I believe it happened this past June, but sometime during the off season, there was an incident with his 4-year-old son, and it just came to light yesterday. The injuries that the kid has, he's got bruises and scratches on his rear end, his legs, and his groin area. Now, that doesn't happen with an ordinary spanking. And Adrian Peterson did say that he used a switch on his kid's rear end. Now, anybody that doesn't know what a switch is, it's actually a small tree branch. And it whips, the rear end. Down here in the South, here in Georgia and throughout the South, they call it like a whipping. It's what they do to kids. Me, I call it abuse. If I were to spank a child with my open hand on his rear end, it would be a little bit red, and it would hurt a little bit. It would not leave scratches, it would not leave bruises, and it wouldn't be on the legs and the groin area. To me, that's abuse. And I think, in the South, a lot of people think in the South that switchers are fine, and using spoons and using other things. If it's not an open hand, in my opinion, and I'm certainly not going to change it regardless of what anybody else says, if it's not an open hand on the rear end, which is a spanking, which is okay for discipline, all of this other stuff, switches, spoons, whatever else you want, that's abuse. And I have no problem with Adrian Peterson being charged with abuse. Now, he spent about 30 minutes in jail yesterday, and he bonded out with a $15,000 bond. Now, I don't know what else is going to happen in terms of future charges. I'm guessing there won't be any jail time even if he's found guilty. I don't know. I do know that he is not playing for the Minnesota Vikings this weekend, which I'm wondering in terms of my fantasy team if that's a blessing or a curse, because my opponent has Adrian Peterson, and who knows, his replacement might score 3 touchdowns against me. I don't know. Excuse me, but seriously, that's abuse, and I have no problem with him being charged with it. I'm sure there's a lot of people down here in the South that would disagree with me, I should say, that that's just discipline. No, discipline doesn't leave bruises, scratches, and it's not all over the legs, the groin. It would be an open hand spanking on the rear end. That's it. All this other stuff, switches and spoon, that's abuse. And I think you should be arrested and charged for stuff like that. Especially in the South, people disagree with me. I don't care. That's abuse, and I have no problem with him being charged. We'll see what happens. The legal system will run its course, and I don't think, even if he's found guilty, like I said, he might get a little probation or a fine or something like that. But we'll wait and see how it goes. I'm hoping that his replacement going against me, doesn't do much. But in the fantasy football world, and by the way, I did win week 1, so my pigskin pimps are 1-0. Hopefully, we will roll very well through the season and win my 2nd championship in my 8th year of playing. But anyway, on to another NFL issue, Ray Rice. Okay, so we know Originally, he got the 2-game suspension, which was ridiculously low, and most people agreed that it was. And then all of a sudden we see what actually happened inside the elevator car. What everybody else had seen, or at least most people had seen, was when the door was open, he was dragging her out of the elevator, but we hadn't seen what happened inside of it. Well, now we see it. Sure, she's kind of loud, and she kind of, gets up in his face. No excuse. I don't want to hear about it from any other guys. Well, she was loud. She got in my face. She took a swing at me. I don't care. The guy plays in the NFL, and he's a man. And there is no reason, absolutely no reason, for him to do what he did. He laid her out with a left hook, dropped her. There is no way that a man should ever do that to a woman. He could have easily restrained her, held her arms or whatever, without knocking her out onto the floor. That's ridiculous. So then once the story hit, now all of a sudden he's suspended indefinitely, and whatever. He should be arrested, even though I know originally they said they weren't going to, file any charges against him. Well, the evidence is there. He knocked the woman out. Now, I'm not saying, she didn't get loud and whatever, approach him, maybe she hit him, I don't know, and I don't care. You don't put your hands on a woman like that. He could have easily stopped her from trying to hurt him without knocking her out onto the floor. So I don't want to hear about that. So I'm hoping there'll be charges filed. I'm hoping he just does jail time, and if it were up to me, I don't think I'd ever let him back in the NFL again. But, we are a nation of second chances, and normally I believe in them. So we'll have to see how that goes. But what really bothered me, the other night, the Ravens, they're hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they're showing the crowd filing into the stadium before the game, and there's a whole bunch of women wearing Ray Rice jerseys. I'm like, are you serious? You're really going to support this scumbag after what you know that he did to a woman? You're going to wear his jersey proudly, like you're proud of him? And people had said, well, he's done a lot in the community, and that's all fine. I don't care. He knocked a woman unconscious for the whole world to see on that camera. There is no way. I would have cut his jersey up into a million pieces. Especially if I were a woman. I would have had a big bonfire burning his jerseys. You're going to support this piece of crap after what he did to that woman? I don't understand it. I mean, maybe I'm just getting really crabby in my old age. I don't know. I just have no tolerance for stupid. And to me, and I don't care what anybody else thinks, that's stupid to be wearing his jersey after what he did to that woman. I just don't understand it. And they interviewed a few of these women, fans that were in the crowd. Well, they're Ravens fans, they're Ray Rice fans. Really? You're still a Ray Rice fan after what he did to that woman? I don't understand it. I'm not saying you shouldn't root for the Ravens anymore, of course. Root for your team. But really? You're going to wear a jersey of the guy that knocked his fiancée unconscious in an elevator? No. I would have had a nice bonfire or took the scissors to that jersey. There are lots of other Ravens jerseys you can get. Don't wear that scumbag's jersey. And whenever he shows up somewhere, I wouldn't support him either. Now, people have said, well, Michael Vick did horrible things, and he certainly did. Fighting those dogs and having those dogs die, it's an absolutely horrible, horrible crime. I would have never allowed him to play in the league again. I said it back then. But from everything I hear, he's been a model citizen and telling people how not to do those things and whatever, and that's great. So he's trying to make amends. But it made me sick seeing all these women wearing these Ray Rice jerseys. He's a scumbag, and he deserves to be in jail, and I'm hoping that one day that'll happen, and I hope I never see him in the NFL again. But anyway, I'm going to move on to something else. Going to move on to some baseball. Season's winding down. Got about 2 weeks left in the season. In the American League, the Orioles ran away with the East, so obviously they're going to have it. Tigers and Royals for the last month or two have been going back and forth. The Royals are playing much better than I thought. overall. Right now they're slumping. But I'm going to say sorry to the Kansas City Royals and say that the Tigers will eventually pull that division out. The Angels, they've got like a 1,000-game lead in the West. I think it's like 11 and a half, something like that. So obviously they're going to get it in the West. Right now in the wild card in the American League, the A's and the Mariners are tied. They have the top 2 spots, I should say. And the Royals, actually. It's a 3-way tie, and only 2 spots are open. And the Royals haven't been in the playoffs in almost 30 years. 1985, when they won the World Series, they haven't been to the playoffs since, so going on 30 years. And I'm going to say sorry to the Kansas City Royals. I don't think the Royals, even though right now they're in a 3-way tie for the 2 spot, I think the Royals are going to be the odd man out. And the Oakland A's and the Seattle Mariners are going to get those 2 wild card spots to go with the Orioles, Tigers, and Angels winning the divisions. Into the National League, the Nationals have a big lead in the National League East. They're going to win the division. I think the Cardinals will hold on in the National League Central. The Brewers are, I think, 2.5 games back as I'm doing the show on Saturday, September 13th. So they're not out of it, but I have no faith in the Brewers, so I think the Cardinals will hold on. The Cardinals are proven, tried and proven, so Cardinals will get that. Dodgers have a 1-game lead over the Giants. The Giants had a big lead. Dodgers came back, took a big lead. Looked like the Giants were going to fade, but now the Giants have been playing well lately. The Dodgers have slumped a bit. The Dodgers have a 1-game lead over the Giants. I picked the Dodgers from the beginning to win the division, so I'm going to stick with that. But I never count the Giants out. And if you recall, the Giants won the World Series in 2010. They won it again 2 years later in 2012. And now it's 2 years later, 2014. You never know. The last 2 odd-numbered years, the Giants have won the World Series. And right now, the Giants and the Pirates are tied for the wild card spots. The Brewers are 1.5 games back, and the Braves are 3 games back. Now, I've been saying all along, you all know how much I hate the Atlanta Braves. I just do not like them. And I've thought all along, even when a month ago they lost all 8 games on an 8-game road trip and fell out of a wild card spot, I've been saying all along that the Braves would come back and get one of those wild card spots. Well, part of me is still thinking that they will, but it's getting tougher. There's only about 14 or 15 games left. I think there's 15 for the Braves. They're 3 games back, but they'd have to pass 2 of the 3 teams in front of them. You know, they're in 4th place and only the top 2 get it. So it's not really the 3 games that's the issue. It's the fact that they'd have to pass 2 teams in front of them in the last two weeks. I still think it's possible, and I'm hoping that the Mets will do some severe damage to the Braves next weekend, in which I will be at all 3 games. Friday night the 19th, Saturday night the 20th, Sunday afternoon the 21st. I will be at Turner Field in Atlanta, rooting my Mets on, dressed head to toe in Mets gear. Hopefully plenty of reason for me to be loud and obnoxious because the Mets are doing well. It's been a nightmare down here the last 15, 20 years for the Mets, although the last 3 years they've played a little more, respectably down here. But I'm hoping the Mets will at least come down here next weekend and take 2 out of 3 at least and really damage the Braves, but we'll see. I'm going to say that the Giants and the Pirates hold on to the 2 wild card spots and get those and join the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and the Nationals as the 5 teams in the National League playoffs. We'll see, and it's looking more and more like it could be a freeway series between the Angels and the Dodgers. We've never had that before, so that would be different. The Angels are just looking really strong. They've got Mike Trout and Albert Pujols and those boys, so they're scoring runs, and they've got a pretty good pitching staff, even though they lost one of their star starting pitchers. The Dodgers, I don't know about the lineup because, Puig's been in a slump for a couple of months now, but they've got really good pitching with, they've got Kershaw over there and Greinke and Ryu and, those boys. And as long as you have really good pitching like that, and they've got a pretty good bullpen too, you're always in it. So Dodgers and Angels wouldn't surprise me at all. They seem to be the best two teams in their respective leagues. But I still think the Braves are going to be heard from in the National League. The Cardinals, every year they always seem to be in it, no matter what happens. The Orioles, I don't trust over in the American League. I don't think they'll do anything. Tigers, I don't know. They've been to a couple of World Series the last few years, but, I think they could be had. The A's, I don't trust them. Mariners, I don't trust them. So, in the American League, I think I'm picking the Angels, and if it's not them, it'll be the Tigers. In the National League, I might give the Dodgers a little bit of an edge because their pitching is great, even though the Cardinals have pretty good pitching too. The Cardinals seem to be more clutch, but right now I'll give the Dodgers the edge in the National League, and I'll say the Dodgers and the Angels in a freeway World Series as we're looking at it now. In the NFL, I'm kind of looking through Week 2. Lions and the Panthers, that should be a pretty good game. Cam Newton, this guy's an idiot. I just don't like Cam Newton. I never have. But, he's sitting there in a press conference making fun of Ndamukong Suh, calling him, I think it was Donkey Kong Sue or something stupid like that. Okay, if I'm a quarterback for a team, I am not going to be antagonizing a really tough and sometimes dirty defensive lineman that under normal circumstances wants to kill me. Excuse me. But now you're just antagonizing him, making him more angry, making him want to come after you even more. And don't be surprised if he doesn't do it. And plus, you're recovering from a fractured rib, so you might not be at 100%. Then you egg on the guy whose job it is to plant you into the ground. And he is really tough, really strong, and aggressive. And obviously has crossed the line into dirty on several occasions. And you want to do your thing to tick him off. I don't know what your deal is, Cam, but I've heard that you're intelligent. I haven't really seen it, but that is certainly not what an intelligent person would do. And I hope he does give you a beating. I really do. I hope he plants you numerous times really hard into the ground. Maybe that'll teach you a lesson to shut your mouth and stop being disrespectful and stupid and doing things to egg on your opponent. So I hope you learn a nice lesson this Sunday. Down here locally, the Falcons are in Cincinnati. Falcons offense is looking really good. Bengals defense is good. I hate the Falcons, so I'm rooting for the Bengals to step up big and slap the Falcons around, but that should be a good game. Saints and the Browns. I know the Saints aren't the same outside as they are in dome stadiums, but the Browns don't really have that much, I don't think. Hoyer made a nice comeback against Pittsburgh and almost pulled that out when they were down 27-3 at halftime and almost pulled it out. He might be solid, but I don't think the running game's that great. I don't think the passing game's going to be that great. They will get Josh Gordon back at some point this year. I think they cut his suspension from the whole 16 games down to 10. But obviously, 10-game suspension isn't going to help them in Week 2. So, Saints should win that one by at least a touchdown, maybe even more. Patriots and Vikings. Patriots looked very bad in Miami last week. I have Tom Brady as my starting quarterback. I'm not a fan of Brady or the Patriots, but when you're picking a fantasy team, you're not supposed to pick a team according to whether you like that team or that player or not. So I'm hoping the Patriots will step up big in Minnesota. They may have caught a break that Adrian Peterson won't be playing. I don't know, but I have Brady and Shane Vereen for the Patriots, so I'm hoping they do a nice job, even though I don't like the Patriots. I'm hoping they will help my team out and do their thing to help me. But I think the Patriots should be able to get past Minnesota. I don't see the Patriots going to 0-2. That's tough for me to see Tom Brady doing that. The Cardinals at my terrible New York Giants. They were absolutely putrid in Detroit on offense and defense. I know I have Calvin Johnson, so I wanted Calvin Johnson to have a big day. But I wanted the Giants to win last week, and that certainly did not happen. I have no confidence in the Giants' offense. Manning just doesn't look that great. Granted, I know it's only one game, but Cardinals have a good defense. I think they're going to be putting pressure on Manning, trying to get him to throw a couple to their side, and I think it's very possible that they'll accomplish that goal. I have no confidence in the Giants. They must establish the running game, which they didn't do a great job of in Detroit last week. But we'll see. I think it could be a long season for my Big Blue, but I'm hoping that the Giants will step up in their first home game and get a victory. The Cowboys and the Titans. Cowboys look terrible. Against San Francisco last week. I'm a Cowboy hater. I hate the Cowboys, so the more they lose, the happier I am. At Tennessee, I think Tennessee might have a little bit of a squad that's underestimated, if you will. But I think the Cowboys with their offense, even though they didn't show it against San Francisco last week, I think the Cowboys have a chance in Tennessee because of that offense. And maybe the defense played a little bit better than people anticipated. The Titans aren't an offensive juggernaut, so I don't think the Titans will be lighting up the board. So I think the Cowboys have a chance to pull that one out up in Tennessee, but obviously I want the Titans to win that game. Let's see, the Jaguars and the Redskins. Redskins looked awful on offense and defense last week. Jaguars looked great in the first half in Philadelphia. They're up 17-0, then got outscored 34-0 in the second half. So I don't know what to think of the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars have a chance, though, because I don't think the Redskins are that great. So, and actually, I want the Jaguars to win, because I'm holding out hope for the Giants in the East, even though Philadelphia seems to be the clear favorite in the East. So I'll root for the Jaguars. Dolphins and Bills, I think that'll be an interesting one. They're both 1-0. Buffalo had a really good win in overtime at Chicago. Dolphins handled their business at home against the Patriots, which was kind of surprising. But I think Buffalo might have the edge just because they're home. I think Miami has a better team. But Buffalo might be able to pull this one out at home. We'll have to see. Seahawks and Chargers. I think enough said. Just saying the Seahawks. I don't think the Chargers have much of a chance. I know Phillip Rivers is solid. He's not going to be afraid to at least a couple of times throw the ball Richard Sherman's way. I was very surprised that Aaron Rodgers did not throw one pass in Sherman's direction. I don't believe in not throwing to an entire side of the field. I think that's dumb. But we'll see. I think San Diego will at least a couple of times go Sherman's way, but Seattle just seems too tough. Beast mode will be happening. The Legion of Boom will be happening. And I think the Seahawks will pull out the victory in San Diego. Rams and Buccaneers, I don't know. Rams were really disappointing. Week 1 at home, they got blown out by Minnesota. Buccaneers, Martin may or may not be playing Sunday, so I don't know. I'll give the Buccaneers the edge at home, though. I'm not sure about that game, but Texans and Raiders, I don't know. Raiders, home field edge. But I think that with Arian Foster running, and if they can get the ball to Andre Johnson, they can score some points. Clowney's out for 4 to 6 weeks, so that hurts the defensive side, but J.J. Watt is still there, and I think will cause havoc for Derek Carr. But Carr looked pretty good in a loss at New York, a close loss to the Jets last week. Oh, congratulations to my cousin Ken, by the way, with your Jets, even though you switched allegiance to the Giants, at least for now. But Jets played pretty well, and pulled out a victory. It might not have been the prettiest victory in the world. Excuse me, but Jets did win the game, so congratulations, Ken. But I'll, maybe a slight edge to the Texans out in Oakland, but Carr looked pretty good, and if they can get the running game going, and get the black hole nice and fired up, maybe the Raiders will pull that one out. Jets in Green Bay. Sorry, Ken. I don't see much of a chance for you Jets. Green Bay was stifled out in Seattle last week. Got a couple of extra days to prepare because they played on that first Thursday night. Aaron Rodgers has been getting some criticism, and the Packers for not throwing a single pass Sherman's way. Now they're home in Green Bay. I think the Jets might take a bit of a beating. I think the Packers will probably win that by 10 points or more and cover the spread, which I think was 8.5. So I think it could be a long day for the Jets, but you never know. I have Randall Cobb, receiver for the Packers, on my fantasy team, so I hope Rodgers gets the ball to him early and often. Chiefs and Broncos. I think the Chiefs are going to be kind of a fraud this year. And in Denver, I don't think they have much of a shot at all. As long as they got that guy, number 18, Peyton Manning, throwing the ball for the Broncos. Broncos at home. Too much for the Chiefs. Probably a double-digit win. I know it's, AFC West, and those games are tough a lot. But I think the Broncos will take care of business. The night game is the Bears and the 49ers. 49ers are tough. I think they'll be tough on the Bears. Sunday night, I think they'll win comfortably, double digits. I don't trust Jay Cutler. I never have. I know he's got 2 stud receivers, and Matt Forte's a stud, but I just don't trust Jay Cutler in a big pressure game. I think he'll throw a couple of balls to the 49ers, and the 49ers have a solid offense and very solid defense, even though they've had some issues with DUIs and domestic abuse and stuff like that. They stepped up against Dallas. I think their defense will step up and slow down the Bears as well. And the Monday night game, Eagles and Colts, that's going to be a really good one. I'm rooting for the Colts. Obviously, I hate the Eagles in the NFC East. But luck. And I have Nick Foles of the Eagles going against me on Monday night, so I really hope the Colts completely shut down the Eagles' offense, and hopefully the Colts will win the game. I think that'll be a tough one, maybe a slight edge to Andrew Luck and the Colts because they're at home. But it's go Colts and completely shut down Nick Foles, please. Help my fantasy team out. The Pimps would appreciate it, and so would the Giants. So I need help there. All right, and then a couple of quick things on college football later on today. There aren't a lot of big games. Like I said, I don't think there are any top 10 matchups. My LSU Tigers, they're hosting Louisiana Monroe. They're a 31-point favorite. Hopefully this will be just a game to get the offense and the defensive schemes in place. Keeping everything flowing smoothly. Just to get ready for the brutal SEC schedule. That'll be starting soon. LSU's a 31-point favorite. Hopefully, they'll win by that much and just start getting the offense, the defense, the special teams, get it into a well-oiled machine so they'll be ready for the gauntlet that is the SEC schedule. Tennessee's at Oklahoma. Now, Tennessee's got a lot of young kids. Some are talented. Oklahoma's ranked number 4, and the game's at Oklahoma. 21-point spread. Oklahoma's favored by. I think they'll cover that. Tennessee's in for a beating today, I believe. I hope Tennessee wins the game. I really do, but I don't see it. I think it's going to be ugly, and they're going to take some lumps. But the Tennessee program is on the way back, and we'll be hearing from them in the next couple of seasons. UCLA at Texas. Texas stinks. I don't like Texas. They've stunk so far. They're playing UCLA, which seemed to be a sexy pick to win the national championship with some people. I don't see it. I think they're overrated. I know they have a good quarterback, but I don't see it. I think they're way overrated. They're not even the best team in their own conference, let alone the best team in the country. I don't think they'll be in the playoffs. I think they're overrated, but they could go to Texas and win tonight because Texas stinks. So we'll have to see how that goes. The biggest game of the day is actually a big game here in this area. Georgia and South Carolina. The game's at South Carolina. South Carolina has not looked good this year. I think the preseason ranking they were 9. Now they're down to 24 after they got blown out at home opening night by Texas A&M. UGA looked really good last week. Gurley certainly does not run like a Gurley man. He is a man. And when they played Clemson, he was like a man running against boys. But I think South Carolina will step up. A big nationally televised game. They got embarrassed the last time, a couple of weeks ago. And I think the old ball coach, Steve Spurrier, will be ready for Georgia. I believe Georgia's like a 5 or 6 point favorite at South Carolina. The last 2 games Georgia's played at South Carolina, they only totaled 13 points in 2 games. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's any way Georgia only has 6 or 7 points. They're going to get their 25 or 30 points. The question is, can Carolina keep up with them? I don't know. But I think Carolina will be competitive. I don't think they're going to get blown out like they did at home a couple of weeks ago. But we'll see. I think that's the biggest game of the day. It's at 3:30. The other games I talked about were all tonight. LSU's at 7. The other 2 games, Oklahoma game and the UCLA game, are both at 8 o'clock. It's not a huge day for college football, but I'll be watching anyway. I'll throw a little baseball. The Braves are playing this afternoon. Go Texas Rangers, just like last night. I'll be rooting against the Braves like I always do. But that's it. That's all I've got. All right, it's Saturday morning. Enjoy your day, whatever you're doing. Enjoy the college football. It's nice weather here in Georgia. Hope it is wherever you are. Get out and enjoy and doing whatever you want to do. You know how to follow me, Twitter, Facebook. You know how to do that. The show will be on probably early tomorrow morning on YouTube, Sportsocology Show. You know where to find it. Hope you enjoy it. Tell other people that you enjoy it. I appreciate you all listening. Have a terrific weekend, whatever you're going to do. And I'll see you next time, America, wherever you are.